5, 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Girls in Government Roundtable. My name is Alexis Johnson, and I am Chief of Staff to Mayor Dave Bronson. Yesterday, we celebrated Girls in Government Day within the municipality. So first, I would like to say thank you to the Anchorage Assembly and to Mayor Dave Bronson for making this conversation possible, recognizing women in government, and helping to cultivate the next generation of girls in government. Today's discussion will be a high-level conversation about our career choices, what it's like being a woman in your respective jobs, how we can improve the municipality as a place for women to work, and how to inspire young girls and women to join into our career fields. This discussion is being live streamed today on the Mayor's Facebook page as well as YouTube. Attendees today will include women from the Municipal Law Department, AWU, Anchorage Fire Department, and Anchorage Police Department, as well as the Mayor's Office. We are joined today in the audience by Mayor Dave Bronson, Chief Equity Officer Junior Amavai, Portia Noble, and Terrence Shanigan, who are also from the Mayor's Office. I'd like to welcome everyone here today and thank you for joining in on this very important discussion. First, we're going to go around the table, introduce ourselves, your titles, your departments, and a quick description of the duties that you do within the municipality. Becky?
Thank you, Alexis. My name is Becky Carson, or first name is Rebecca. I work for the Anchorage Police Department. I currently am under the Patrol Division. I have the title of a domestic violence investigator here within the department. Some of my job duties as a domestic violence investigator, I read and review all of the domestic violence reports that come into the Anchorage Police Department. So if you never have any idea of about how many reports that is, it's over 4,000 a month or more. Part of my duties, I ensure that all investigative steps have been taken for like patrol initials response. I make sure that the victim in a domestic violence incident has a safe place to go, and that the offender or the suspect in this matter is held accountable for any criminal behavior. My office is in the Boney Courthouse over at 303 K Street. Downstairs in the office, it's kind of like a one-stop shop down there. There's magistrates, there's advocacy services, and then a walk-in police department office, which is the only walk-in department that has the only area within APD that has a walk-in department. So we serve citizens, anybody who has any type of questions, anyone who wants to make a police report or just talk about domestic violence in nature. We conduct follow-up for the prosecuting agencies, both the district attorney's office and the municipal prosecutor's office. We collect a lot of type of things that help us prepare a case for prosecution, whether someone was hospitalized, so we can obtain medical records. We take progression photographs, somebody who's injured might have bruises, and 10 days later bruises look a lot different. So we try to document a lot of that and kind of just work with the victim who may be unsure of how a process works after someone's been arrested for some sort of domestic violence event, all the way through prosecution, which can be up to years later. So that's some general overview of what I do in my office, and I'll hand it over to Monica next.
Hi, I'm Monica Elkington. I am the Deputy Municipal Prosecutor for Domestic Violence. So Becky and I work closely together along with her partner and then the other 4 attorneys on my team and the other 2 APD officers in my office. So we take the evidence that APD has prepared and collected in domestic violence prosecutions, and we prosecute those cases and protect the public to the fullest extent of the law. So the municipality prosecutes all of the misdemeanors inside the municipal border. So that's from Girdwood to Chugiak, and all of those, unless they're associated with a felony, all of those misdemeanors come through our office, and it's 5,000 to 7,000 cases a year, and about half of those are domestic violence cases. And so we prosecute based on the evidence. We go to court. Many of those cases go all the way to trial and sentencing, and many of them settle prior to trial.
Hi, my name is Justine Brown. My job title is Senior Treatment Plant Operator 4. I work in the treatment department under the Water Distribution Operations. My primary focus at work is water quality and fire protection. Duties include water quality sampling, water distribution facility checks, and design, inspect, repair, and commission pressure regulating valves in the water distribution system.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Sanders, and full disclosure, I'm kind of panicking. I'm not very good at public speaking. I'm sure you can tell, but if my face gets really red, it's not a medical emergency. That's just me. I promise I'll be fine. So I work for the Anchorage Fire Department. I've been with them for about 15 months. I'm about to get off probation, if everything goes well, on April 9th. So as far as my duties, it kind of depends on which rig I'm on. If I'm on the ambulance, often I'm driving. I don't drive the fire trucks or the fire engines. But with any of those rigs, there's a lot of patient care. A lot of our calls are medical in nature. So that's attending to the patient and what they're needing. If it is a fire-related call or a maybe like an extrication, then my job is like pulling the line or running the extrication equipment and ultimately just doing what anybody tells me to do. I think I said the things I was supposed to say.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. So let's start off with an easy question today. What made you go into government work, and did you always want to be what you're doing right now?
This is Becky. So I'm one of those lucky girls. I guess I did always know from when I was a young age that I was going to be in some sort of law enforcement career. I remember being a young child and I was eating a bowl of cereal and reading the police reports that would come and be printed in our weekly newspaper. And the paper was only printed once a week. So I would read the same story 7 days in a row while I was eating my cereal. So I went to college for criminal justice. I graduated with a degree and I worked for the state of Alaska, which was the first place that took my application. I couldn't have been happier. I worked there for just about 10 years as a probation officer. I worked both in the institution and then out in the field, which after I transitioned then to APD, that drastically helped my knowledge of how things worked and, you know, what happens on the inside of a jail, how things operate, how the court system works, what those processes are, what the classifications of crimes were. And not only that, I worked in Anchorage, so I worked closely with a lot of the members of the police department. I knew radio codes. I knew how to navigate this town. I love the active role that I play in the community. I love the active lifestyle that this job brings me, and I'm able to help those in need. And working in domestic violence really gives me an eye-opening view of how many people actually need help in this community. And it's rewarding to be able to offer the things that I am able to offer them to get through the things that they're going through. There's difficulties in this career, which I'll talk about those in some other questions. But despite the difficulties and some of the things that we have to overcome in this field, I've always maintained interest. I love coming to work every day, and I'm almost ready to retire by the number of years I've been here, but I don't plan to retire. I want to keep going.
I hope you don't retire anytime soon. I did not always think I would do this. I was thinking I didn't even think I would be a lawyer until college, when I was majoring in mathematics and knew I did not want to be a mathematician. And I also did not want to be a math teacher. So I went to law school thinking I want to do something public service oriented. But I didn't know what that was. And luckily I was able to try out a lot of things through internships and externships and visit a lot of places. And, you know, I spent the first 10 years of my legal career being on the criminal defense side, but learned courtroom skills, learned to have a thick skin when it comes to dealing with people who have a hard time in society for many reasons. I worked for the state as well. And then I came to the municipality doing civil litigation for the city. And then I've been here almost 6 years. And when the position opened in criminal prosecution. It was not something that I would have thought of, but I considered it, and I think it's important to always be open to things. So, but I love what I'm doing now, but it's not something that I thought I want to get to be deputy municipal prosecutor for domestic violence. It's just not something that I had exposure to before, but it is very rewarding now.
I'm Justine again. So I did not know I wanted to come into my field when I did. So I went to Job Corps. I had initially wanted to go into human services. And then we went and did a tour around all the classrooms that they have at Alaska Job Corps. And I really enjoyed the classroom at Water and Wastewater Utility. I liked the fact that I got to do math every day or science, or it's just so diverse at what we can do every day. I also like learning. And so throughout my whole career, I'm going to have to get continuing education units. So I'm not just going to know everything now and then end there. So I get to learn.
I did not always know that I wanted to be a firefighter. It was probably like a year and a half ago I decided that I wanted to be a firefighter. My degree is in early childhood education, and after I graduated, I did a lot of work in preschools and nonprofits, and ended up working at a nonprofit where we did forensic interviews on kids who were victims of abuse and neglect. And as you could probably imagine, that even after only 5 years of doing it, I felt like I wanted to change. And this sounds so lame, but I just was like, I think being a firefighter might be cool, which is that's not a cool thing to say. And I felt like a little part of me was like, that maybe I'm not strong enough, or maybe I'm not smart enough. I didn't know anything about firefighting. And so then the fact that I felt like doubt that I could do it, I was like, well, that's probably a good sign that I should try to do it, because I didn't want to, decades down the road be like, well, I didn't try and I didn't know if I could do it, but I never made the effort. And so then I tried it, and then here I am. And that's all.
Well, we're glad that you pursued it, and we're glad to have you here. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a tougher question. What is it like being a female in your industry, and have you faced any challenges? Let's start with Justine.
Initially starting in this field, it was a little bit of a challenge. I had no experience with working with tools. Being a part of the water distribution team, I get to make repairs on pressure regulating valves in the utility that have leaks or aren't functioning properly. After coming this long in the water treatment, water distribution field, I now get to train new people coming into my field. Being a female in my industry, I don't feel any different from any of my coworkers, which are mainly men.
Despite the fact that women make up 51% of the population, and despite the fact that women have a majority, the law school graduates are majority women, 51 or 52%, the law and lawyers are still a male-dominated field. And it seems like that's true for all of us. And yeah, there have certainly been barriers. Yeah, a lot. I would say the biggest has been dealing with egos of other men who don't recognize that I'm as smart as them, or maybe better, or maybe that I work harder than them. And they come up with, I've been doing this for 15 years. They come up with all different ways of making sure it is clear to me that they think they are better. And sometimes I have been able to use that to my advantage. being underestimated in the courtroom is sometimes very helpful. But yeah, there's been a lot of bad treatment.
Okay. I feel like I said, I've only been working for AFD for about 15 months, and I just can't say enough good things about my experience so far. I think that probably says a lot about the work that women before me have done, because obviously my experiences in 2022 are vastly different from some of the other women that I work with who have started many years before me. I have to walk farther to the bathroom in some of the stations because there's less of those, but usually that means I get a bathroom to myself. So that's a silver lining. So it maybe is not fair of me to speak on it just being so new, because I've actually kind of had an opposite experience that the men that I'm working with go out of their way to be helpful. And, you know, sometimes maybe there's like people referring to firefighters as he all the time and never she. So like little things like that, but no malintent there. And I'm fortunate to have not experienced such really any serious negativity. But again, if you see any other female firefighters, be sure to ask about their experiences, because they're all of ours are unique.
Thank you. So being a female police officer, I have to agree. There's some challenges that come with wearing gear, duty belts, things like that. I feel very supported within my police department community, my leadership staff. Everyone has welcomed all of the female officers. There's probably more female officers at APD now than there ever has been before. And if you look at the application to be a police officer, they don't lower any of the standards just because you're a woman. I mean, we still do the same amount of push-ups. We still take the same psychological exams and go through the same police department academy that requires that you get through that. And then the same training that's on the street. There's nothing that's different presented in the career just because that you are a female. Working in the field as a female, sometimes there's challenges from, members of the public. Oh, you're just a girl, I don't have to listen to you. Or, I'm not a big macho man. I'm not the John Butlers of the world here. So some of those can be challenging, but you still have to have that uniform presence. And a lot of that comes with your mouth. That's my biggest weapon in this department. It's not my gun, that's on my hip, right? So the standards are all the same. Statistically speaking, having female police officers is very advantageous. We read emotions well. We have the mom in us that can work with the female victims that we work with. We can facilitate a lot of cooperation just through articulation and our words. We don't need that, what's presented in the media, this I'm going to run and grab you and tackle you because I'm a big, strong man, right? So some of the stereotypes, breaking those stereotypes and the perception of what it is to be a police officer, having a woman in uniform and being a woman in uniform, I don't feel like it's been a challenge just because of my gender. I've officially enjoyed every minute of my career, and every single day that I come to work is so rewarding. And I wish I could explain without having the experience for all of you to come and, do a ride along with us and come and sit through one of our trainings or something and learn. We have a Citizens Academy and see what it's really like to be a police officer.
So, do you think that there is an opportunity for the municipality to make being a woman in government easier or more equitable? Right now, we had just talked previously before this meeting, the municipality is riding around about 32% women. So, do you think that there's an opportunity for us to, balance that out to an actual representation of what the world is, 51%, or, somewhere near that number?
In my opinion, for specifically my field, I feel like it's just a matter of choice for each woman to want to get into the field. It does take time and effort to get into my line of work. I did try to recruit people to come into my field, and I got the reaction of, ew, that's gross, so it's just not for some people. So
I wasn't prepared for this one. I didn't get the questions ahead of time. Sorry, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. One thing that has been difficult, this new group of hires, there are no women. No women were hired with this recent academy. And then there was only myself and one other woman in our academy the year prior. And the physical agility test, it's similar to APD. The physical requirements are the same for the men and the women. And so in my opinion, it's not a matter, the test doesn't need to change because obviously women can and have passed it. But I know I passed it because I had a lot of people helping me leading up to it and getting ready for it. And if women don't have those kinds of connections to be getting prepped for it, then it makes sense to me that they would be struggling with the test. It's not that it's not doable, it just does take a lot. And so I don't know what that would look like for the Muni. We've, some of the women in our department put a female camp or a girls fire camp on last summer that was fantastic. The girls were killing it. They were hands-on with everything and things like that. Them becoming familiar with the fire service in general, and then knowing that they are capable of it, the sooner the better. Because like I said, I was almost 30 years old when I realized that I could be a firefighter. So maybe more events like that. And then maybe and not necessarily just for young girls, but young adults to be practicing. So that when it comes time for hiring, that it's not go time for the test and it's a one and done. If you fail that one time, then you're out until the next time we hire. So that was a long way of saying maybe coordinating ways for women to get more hands-on with the physical agility test.
So for the municipality to make being a woman in government easier, I'd like to think of perception. What are we perceiving? What are we putting out in the media? Are your commercials highlighting female and male officers? What's being presented? What does this job entail? Are we reaching kids at a young age in elementary schools? What are their experiences with the police, and is their perception positive regardless of where they live or what experiences that they may have had? You can have a career and a mom life, and a lot of people think that that's maybe one or the other, and we lose a lot of very good, qualified, skilled candidates maybe because of that. And the municipality allows and has huge incentives for not only women but men in government, and all of those things you can balance while you're working in the municipality. We're highly supported, like I mentioned before, and I think it's a unity. There's not a separation because of your gender. So if you've never thought about having a career and a family and being able to balance that life, if I can do it, I know other people in the municipality can do it.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely opportunity to recruit more women to work for the municipality. Whether I think the idea of summer camp for girls, and that sounds fantastic, or girls in fire service. And I was just at a meeting yesterday where we were talking about how to recruit more women and diverse members of the Alaska Bar, because when we look at the legal field in Alaska, there's definitely opportunity as well. And one of the things that I thought of and that we thought about in this other meeting was that sometimes people don't think that they, especially women, don't think they're strong enough to be a firefighter, don't think they're strong enough to be a police officer, don't think they can handle what is going to come your way, or don't think they can handle the math or science in your job too. And so knowing that these fields are kind of for everybody, like it doesn't take some magical, Harvard graduate to be doing this public service. We all work hard. We are all very smart. We are all strong, but it doesn't mean that you don't qualify for it if you don't think that you are the absolute best one. You win CrossFit worldwide or whatever it is. There's still a place for you. There's a place for all of us. So.
And I believe that. I think that there's a place for everyone in our municipality. I want to switch gears. I want to talk about mentors for a minute. The mayor's office has really supported the notion of mentorship and community leaders kind of cultivating the younger generations. So for those of you that don't know, there's a new mayor's mentorship program coming on with the new chief equity officer that allows our city's youth to partner with someone within the municipality to kind of shadow them for a day or two and see if that's something that they would be interested in doing or pursuing a career in. And we've had middle schoolers and high schools come in from their civics and government classes and listen to the mayor speak. And we kind of, go do a roundtable and say, this is what we're doing. If you're interested, we'd love to, cultivate that. And so with that being said, did you guys have any mentors in your life that cultivated your desire to work in government? Or do you think that there's any female leaders that you look up to that have kind of paved the way for girls in government?
Mentors that I've had in my life include my mother, a couple of my high school teachers, and the men and women that trained me in my job. My mother was a single mother, or single parent, and she raised 6 kids. So that helped me want to grow and want to be independent. And now I train other people, so I feel good.
It's like, I feel like it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Obviously, my mom, she retired from the Air Force after 28 years. She only joined as a way to pay for school because she always wanted to be a physician's assistant, and then ended up staying for 28 years. And she actually this summer is graduating with her PhD. She did, after she retired, she went on to become a physician's assistant. That's her retirement gig. But she, and I'm like only just realizing it, that what she did for me, the way that she presented herself and how that set me up for success. Even sometimes I think like unintentionally, she was obviously in a male dominated field, and she things like, she always spoke with her chest. She had command presence. She could also take things in stride, because obviously if you're going to be a woman surrounded by men, I made that sound awkward. That in a field where it's mostly men, you have to also be able to kind of like let things roll off your back. And she could do that. She could have fun, but also, like I said, would command respect too. And she went to the gym every day. She just is a really good example of doing it while you're there. Again, like that wasn't her plan all along, but then she had her plan to become a physician's assistant, and she didn't let the fact that she had already had an entire career stop her from doing that. And so, like I said, I was in early childhood for only 5 years. And so I think probably my mom making that career change after so many years, that I didn't hesitate at all to kind of make that leap. And I have her to thank for a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my mom too. My mom's in the audience. Hi. And I think in my family growing up, public service and volunteerism and civic engagement was always a very big part of our lives. And so I kind of always knew that I would do something to help people. I didn't necessarily know that it would be local government, although it turns out there's a lot of wonderful ways to give back to the community with a career in local government. And yeah, kind of modeling that and being involved in your community and caring about what happens I've definitely seen modeled by my mom, by my dad, by lots of people. So that was a big motivator for me.
Well, I'll give my mom credit just the same. My mom stayed home with 4 girls. I went to a private school, Christian school growing up. So I had a lot of qualities and a lifestyle that I wish a lot of people were still able to have. Unfortunately, in this career, I've met a lot that don't have those same opportunities. My mother-in-law was a magistrate judge and raised a family working 3 jobs as a single mom after her husband had passed away. Those are pretty amazing qualities to have. And I work with such a high number of successful women in the municipality in all of the different departments, and they're inspiring, and they speak highly of themselves, of their careers, and encourage me to do what I do. If you asked me if I'd ever worked in domestic violence cases like Monica, I would have never, ever considered it. And one of my sergeants one day was like, hey, the spot's open, you should put in for it. And I'm like, I didn't even know it was open. What is it about? I have no idea. And I did, and I got that. He encouraged my application. And when I was 10 years old, I took a ride along with one of my mom's friends who's a female detective in a bigger police department in Minnesota. And I got to work with her, and it's just inspiring. It's eye-opening. It's something that these women along the way have always been inspirational. And I hope that I can do the same for the future young girls who want to be police officers someday as well.
Thank you, Becky. I wasn't going to talk on this, but I should, because my mom is incredible as well. And so I'm very lucky that my parents really allowed me to just chase any dream I ever wanted. I feel like every month in college, I'd be like, Dad, I'm taking on a new, class, and I think I'm going to change my major. And he'd be like, okay. So they definitely let me grow and learn. And, when I told him, hey, I think I'm going to quit slinging grilled cheese and go work for the mayor, he was like, okay, let me know when you're headed out. And so, my parents have been really supportive of that. So thank you for sharing about your mentors. It's inspiring. As far as the next generation goes, what is one thing that you would say to girls who are interested in going into government, or who are trying to decide what they want to be when they grow up? And then, do you have any words of advice for following your dreams?
So I'm very goal oriented. So my advice would be to make goals both long-term and short-term and try to reach them. We can all achieve anything that we set our minds to.
Kind of like how I was saying that with the example of my mom, and then of myself, of that just because you decide, maybe you can decide that there's something that you want to do when you grow up, like you decide that you want to be a police officer when you're 10 years old, and that's awesome. And then if you try it and you don't like it, all right, try something else. You're not bound to that. It's okay to try something and decide it's not for you, or maybe it is for you and you just want to try something else for the sake of trying something else. There's no reason to limit yourself. There's a space for you. And I guess because, it says when they decide what they want to be when they grow up, growing up could be when you're 30 or when you're 60. It doesn't have to end. So yeah, I think that would be it.
So I would tell younger generation females who want to be police officers, or any area within the municipality, don't let fear stop you. Apply without your hesitation. If shooting a gun or being able to do a whole bunch of push-ups is your fear, get out on the range, go practice, get in the gym. Do what you have to do to make those things. Don't let that stop you. The municipality offers a great retirement and benefits system, your future is set. There's so many opportunities within each of the different agencies to promote and keep building that wall. And like you said, if you don't like it, you can always go do something else. So don't hesitate, have that confidence within yourself and show those qualities that you have and be confident in those abilities.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should all encourage young girls to dream big and to, let them be whatever they want. And I think we should also make sure we are encouraging our sons to know that the girls in their lives will be whatever they want, and that they need to support them. Because it doesn't do a lot of good for us to encourage our daughters to do whatever they want if they are running up against male-dominated fields still. So, and I think there's a lot more push to encourage girls in these fields without the same push on the boys' side for them also to be encouraging women in their fields. It's not it's not on women to increase in male-dominated fields. It's also got to be on the men to encourage the women in those fields. So,
Thank you, Monica. Okay, so last question for the panel. How do you think the municipality should go about empowering young girls in the next generation to serve the public in local government, especially in male-dominated fields? I know that you had talked about the women's workout. I think that's incredible. I didn't know that existed, and it's nice to see that, we're starting a trend of, to get more girls in the firefighting industry. So my question to you is, do you have any creative ideas to get more girls involved, especially in male-dominated fields?
Yeah, I think a lot of the programs targeting youth are key because people do make up their, minds sometimes. I wasn't one of them either, but and just knowing what's out there, just being exposed to all these different careers, and especially the science and math careers that we have at the municipality. We have an opportunity to reach out and help train our next generation of thinkers and leaders that can put their minds towards municipal service and municipal problem solving and civil service in the public sector. So I absolutely, I think that's something that more encouragement and more programs and partnering with the programs that are there and mentorship and just exposure, getting, the high school kids, junior high kids, college students to be exposed to women in these fields, being guest speakers in classes, being at some of the training programs, just kind of for them to know that we are here and that there is a place for them in this government too.
So I'll piggyback that as well. Getting in the schools and using outreach at a young age, I think is instrumental. Keeping things simple and honest about what we do. Let them pick up your vest and feel what it's like to wear. Let them jump in my car and play with the lights and pretend they're driving. Let them experience these things that you're experiencing. And by you carrying yourself well, you're going to teach them to carry themselves well, and using your personal experience to inspire that. You might be breaking stereotypes and any type of negative experiences that they may have just by being present. Most experiences with police, usually you're in crisis or something traumatic is happening to you. So if you can get in and target a population while they're not in a crisis, or while they're in the young age of wanting to learn and really wanting to hear, that would be my best advice on how to get the next generation to want to do these things. Just keep it simple, keep them honest, and as raw as it can be, expose them, invite them, and have them experience what we do.
So for me personally, I hadn't known anything about my line of work until I went to Alaska Job Corps. So I do agree with you guys that we should be going into the schools and making presentations occasionally about our line of work. That way they're exposed to what's out there.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have anything revolutionary. That's like I have to piggyback the same. Day an engineer. What am I doing? Why is it doing that? Okay. An engineer had some of his kiddos come by the station, and I was on duty that day. I was just out running calls, and I guess the little girl was like, "Well, are there any female firefighters or any girl firefighters?" And of course, he's like, "Well, yeah, there are. They're not here yet." And a kid can't. They don't process that, so they just see a bunch of men, and the fact that the girl didn't just know for a fact that female firefighters exist, that would be really great to change that. And I think, like you're saying, in the schools, and then just like public events, I think are great. The firefighters were able to do sled handling for the dog races for Rondi, and then my coworkers and I are walking back to the station to take off our gear. We're not even on duty, and a little girl asked to take her picture with us because she'd never seen female firefighters. So even just little things like that, like we weren't even doing anything, we were just walking. So just being present and visible, I think, is important.
That's awesome. And these ideas are great. And I think, the mayor and the staff on the 8th floor are really going to take these to heart and try and implement them within our city. So do we have any questions that you guys have for us, or do you want to pass it over to the audience, see if they have any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
How much difference do you think it makes that most of the top leaders in government today are male? What does that do to your thinking about maybe moving into a position of higher authority? The upper echelons seem to be crowded with men. How do we do something about that, and what does it mean to you all?
Maybe I can start on that one. So in our Girls in Government resolution that the Anchorage Assembly had adopted, we had recognized that although the world is made up of 51% females, the upper echelon of political hierarchy, I should say, is male dominated. In Congress and Senate, there's not a branch of government where women are outweighing men as far as representation. And so I think representation matters. I think it's important. We were just having this conversation on the 8th floor. I think that there is something to be said about motherhood. And I have friends where I'm like, oh, you should go do that. And then they say, oh, well, we're thinking about having a baby within the next year. Well, go do it until you have a baby, go chase your dreams until then. But I think sometimes females plan a little bit. We're planners. And so I think that's one of the things that I pick up on. Maybe they're more focused on their family at the time, but as Becky said, you can have both. I have 2 babies. I know there's girls in the audience who have 3 kids and are rocking it at the Muni. So that's my experience.
So I think, at least within the police department, we have a lot of female leadership in command. We have female all the way up to captain level. And if I was to ask anybody, I think at the police department, if they would be willing to go further, what would be their promotional responsibility in their career, I think that what we've already said through the last hour would be the same answers. Follow your dreams. If you want to do something, go for it. If it requires an upper level education, obtain it. don't let anything stop you. And, whatever plans God has for us in this world, we'll get there.
Thanks, everybody. This has been really great to listen to. And I was just curious, in each of your fields, as you guys were coming into your career and you did face some of these challenges that you guys have been kind of alluding to, what kind of advice would you give somebody to overcome that? And as a woman, do you feel like there was a specific that was like an advantage to you to overcome some of these challenges, in your particular field? Do you think it provided you some additional insight? And, what would you say to somebody in your field coming up, and just kind of advice you would give them, female in your specific, positions you've held?
So in my line of work, because I've been on both ends, I've been the trainee and now I'm kind of the trainer. What I've seen is it's easier to train people who have the willingness to learn and to wanna go and get your hands on the tools and take stuff apart, put it back together, and make sure it functions. It's just willingness to learn is so beneficial in my line of work.
This feels kind of like a silly example, but it was the first thing that came to mind when you're asking. One thing that is a challenge is gear fitting appropriately. There's not a lot on hand. When I was starting academy, there wasn't gear that fit just right, and they have a representative come in, and they are not for our turnouts for our PPE, and the rep from Lion wasn't used to having women that he's having to fit, and so that they're doing their best with what they have, but it was kind of like I'm not the first female firefighter ever to exist, so it was kind of like backtracking a little bit, and then so they fit me the best that they could, and then they came back with the gear and it didn't fit, and I felt so awkward being the woman who had to be like, this doesn't fit quite right, but it's life-saving equipment, so it needs to fit just right. And fortunately, I was really lucky that one of my instructors, firefighter Megan McLean, she was there by me the whole time. And then of course I had another instructor, male instructor, who was just as supportive, but kind of giving me that space to be like, actually, no, this doesn't fit. It's not my fault that I am an awkward shape, I guess, but I have to go into a fire with this gear. And if it doesn't fit properly, then that's not acceptable. And so then I guess what I'm trying to say is like being comfortable having that voice, and I guess that kind of just comes with the experience. But if there's a girl out there that's listening right now, then that is just what I would say, is that there's a space for you and your voice, and you are not a burden for using it, or you're not out of line for using it.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Is that we've got to speak up when stuff isn't right, and we also have to be receptive to that. When other people are speaking up and we've gone along and we've thought, oh, this is right, and when people point out to us, and so and that's true for men and women. And but yeah, we absolutely have to speak up when something isn't right. So I appreciate that. I agree.
I think part of your question too, if you want to break down the barriers to your success and treat them as challenges, look at the past experiences that you've had. What made them positive experiences? What was challenging about them, and what did you do to overcome those challenges? And using those tools and whatever skill set you have to help overcome the future barriers or any future challenges that you have. For me, that would be one way that I would look at it.
I have another piece of advice. I once read a book by Tina Fey, and it was called Bossy Pants. It was a great book, but one of the things that she said is that there are men in her career who have said that she can't do things, she can't write, she can't be the head writer of Saturday Night Live, she can't be the first woman on Weekend Updated, et cetera, et cetera. And she said the advice that she gave, which I always think about a lot, is she goes over, under, through, around, and comes out the other side. And so it's just got to be, sometimes there's just challenges, and we have to go over, under, around, through, whatever we can do to get on the other side of it.
It is a great book if you guys ever get the opportunity to read it. So with that, I'd like to thank every one of you for joining us today. It's been an honor and a privilege for me to work alongside powerhouse females in this municipality. I say it every day. I love working with the women on our floor, and on floor 2 and floor 7. And I've gotten to experience such professional females. And so I'm grateful for our time here today. And, I look forward to continuing the hard work that the municipality is going to be doing, and so that we can better our city. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that ballots are out. It is voting season, and you guys have until April 5th to vote. So get out and vote. It's very important. So thanks everyone for being here today, and happy St. Patrick's Day.